Yeah. So transportation model is another model which includes our study, which we need to know how it helps in order to select the right or appropriate location for our plant. So first point, let's see, to find out an optimum transportation schedule, keep in mind cost of transportation to be minimized. So this main objective of this model is to schedule the transportation, keeping the cost concept of transportation to be minimized. The main thing is considering the transporting activities, say receiving the raw materials, or distributing to the suppliers, or reaching the market. So considering all these elements, this model has been derived, or the main objective of this model is to minimize the cost concept involved in transportation. Okay, a product is to be transported from a number of sources to a number of destinations at a minimum possible. So this model helps if you have multiple centers of your warehouse and multiple centers of your markets to be reached. So example, if you have three different locations, set up your warehouse, and you have to cover three different distribution centers with all your products. So how you're going to cover? So it's that this is the model will help us to minimize the transportation cost with respect to the transporting a product, considering all the three warehouses and three different markets, or say three different distribution centers. Okay, each source is able to supply a fixed number of units of the product, and each destination has fixed demand for product. So that's what a supply is, where is we need to supply the product, and destination is where we need to reach with our product. So let's understand. See, this is very simple. When we have a multiple resource, or say a warehouse, or say a multiple plants set up in terms of production, and we need to reach with three different, or say multiple. I'm just taking an example of three here. So if you have four or five warehouse setup, or four different areas in a single region setup, and you have to reach out four to five regions of markets or distribution centers. So how you're going to make sure you are enjoying, or you are minimizing the transportation cost? So this method will help us to analyze and minimize the cost involved. So you see examples, if I take source one, so it has to reach its products to all the three markets, all the three demand centers. Yes, so demand center is somewhere, the distribution center or a market where to be your product has to be delivered. So it has to cover all the three areas. And when we refer to second supply area, we have to cover again all the three destinations. And with respect to the last, C supply M is M, it has considered as M, it is not 3. So if you have a multiple locations in terms of supply source, so this method will help us to reduce, or say minimize, in terms of the cost involved in transportation. So even demand, it is N, so you don't have a definition in terms of the number of distribution centers. So it helps where this method would help for the large scale industries where they have expanded themselves in different regions. Okay, so to make sure they have the cost minimized with respect to transportation aspect. So this was all about the transportation method. See, this methods in simple terms, or to conclude this method, is if you have multiple source or multiple warehouse and multiple distribution areas to be covered, or with this all multiple warehouse and multiple distribution centers has to be, there is a movement of your product among multiple source centers and multiple distribution centers, then this method is suitable enough to analyze and get the best location to be selected in terms of establishing, or say to reducing the cost with respect to the transportation among all these areas. Yes, so how we are going to reduce? that has to be calculated with the different methods, but let's not go in such deep concepts. So simply just understand this is a method will help us to reduce the cost involved in transportation among multiple sources of warehouse and multiple distribution center to be covered. Again, if I have to state this, when we have a more number of this process is somewhere, the movement of products involved among multiple source of warehouse and multiple destinations, or say multiple distribution areas to be covered. So this is the best suitable method in order to analyze and reduce the cost involved, or say to minimize the cost involved in transportation process. So this was all about transportation method.